Welcome to another episode of the Alamo City Sportscast with Mike Jimenez and Joe Garcia. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Join the discussion as we broadcast live from beautiful West San Antonio. And remember to tip your hosts as it helps the show grow.
Welcome to another episode of the Alamo City Sportscast. Mike is joining us remotely right now because he's had quite an ordeal coming back home.
What's going on, Joe? No, I'm back home, and as we always say, we do the show from west side of San Antonio, West Bexar County, represented. Joe's at home. I'm at home, too. I'm here in San Antonio as well, West Bexar County. I got in late last night, Joe, and what I did not realize, if you follow me on Twitter at MJ Acquired Tastes, I was on a vacation with my girlfriend, visiting her daughter who goes to grad school in Miami, Florida. We were there for 4 days. It was fun. Had a great time out there, but I didn't realize how late my flight got in, and it got there late. So we've got into Houston at 1 a.m, and then I drove back from San Antonio from 3:30 to 7:30 this morning. So I'm on like 1 hour sleep. So I told Joe, I was like, I'm doing the show, but I got to do it from home, man. I just need that extra 15 minutes of sleep to get going. Joe, what I did not realize, though, was that Spirit Airlines has first class. Are you aware of this? Spirit Airlines, which I believe filed for bankruptcy last week, has a first class option. I had no idea. The girlfriend got the tickets. We took American Airlines on the way over to Florida. On the way back, ended up getting Spirit, but she goes, but I got first class. So the first 3 rows of the Spirit flight, that nasty ass plane, is first class. So instead of having 3 seats, there's 2. Here's what you get for first class on Spirit Airlines, right? It's $100 per person, right? You get all you can drink.
Oh God!
And as many snacks as you want. So I was like, okay. So Joe, I was drinking Buffalo Trace on the plane. So they had Buffalo Trace, and when I asked for 1, they gave us 3. She asked for Jack Daniels, they gave her 3, and then they have, you have all the snacks, and they came by, and like no one else is getting snacks on Spirit, right? Unless you're paying for it. So they give us this big basket of snacks, and they're like, hey, take what you want. And I got like 1 Kind bar, and they're like, just take them all.
Oh yeah.
So I ended up grabbing like 5 or 6 of them, and popcorns and almonds and stuff like that. So apparently Spirit Airlines has first class. I'd never flown it before, but it was fun, Joe. How was your weekend, Joe?
Busy, man. Got a lot of things done. And also, shout out to Matt Lerma for hosting the Spurs over there at the Black Lab Brewing. It was a nice facility, nice place. The Spurs, faithful were out there. Shout out to Chris Leha and MCS General Contracting for going out there and showing support. Shout out to Elias. He went out there with his family as well. Got to meet some new people. Overall, it's a good place, good hangout, man. Unfortunately, the Spurs didn't win, but kudos to Matt for hosting that, dude. It was a really nice showing.
That's fantastic. It looks like I'm going to be in San Antonio this upcoming weekend. Apparently, UTSA now has a chance of making a bowl game. In fact, a very big chance because they got a victory over the weekend. Number 5 of the year. You need 6 to be bowl eligible. Next week, they got Temple at the Alamo Dome. Joe, Vegas has UTSA as a 16.5-point favorite. They got to get this game because they're not going to beat Army in the last game of the season, right? So you got to get this game. It seemed to be like a foregone conclusion that UTSA was not going to make a bowl game, but they've gotten hot. They got a running game suddenly. Jeff Taylor turning the boys around. And, Joe, here's what I'm wearing right now, Joe. Oh, no, it's making an appearance. UTSA gear is making an appearance. I might make an appearance at the Alamo Dome next weekend if you want to come by and drink some Fireball with a brother.
There you go. Well, they beat North Texas by a final score. Was it 48-27?
Yeah.
So they have Temple coming up here on Friday, another Friday game. This is going to be at 6 p.m., the tip. And Temple, it's one of those trap games. You got to get up. You got to get prepared for the team that's there in front of you. Yeah. Because they're going to come out here and they're going to compete. This is what happens in sports. The teams in front of you are going to come out and compete. It's up to you to put together a scheme and execute the plan in order to win. If UTSA wins this game, Mike, they are bowl eligible. No doubt they are bowl eligible. The problem is, even though you're bowl eligible, they still can look you over. But they would make a strong case for themselves if they were able to get that win over Army, then people would raise an eyebrow and be
Right.
like, "Oh, look what they did here. This
Now,
might be the team I want in a bowl."
Now, back in the day when they were in Conference USA, they got looked over when they had the 6 wins, right? I think it's kind of hard to look over an American Conference team because it's a higher level conference. It's one of the best conferences outside of the usual Power 5 schools that are out there. So it's not like it's Conference USA. It's not like it's, some low level conference, the Americans out there. So I'm going to go ahead and say that if they get to 6, they should be fine, especially since San Antonio, which is a pretty decent sized media market, comes along with it. But that would be a big thing for UTSA because UTSA playing this season without Frank Harris. Frank Harris was a quarterback there for about 7 years, man, because of COVID, injuries, redshirting, and all that stuff. So it looked as though they were dead in the water and it was going to be a lost year. If they can turn it around, go 6-6, make a bowl game, that would be a victory. And then we'd have to give them some props when it comes to it. We were down on that team this year, man. They got off really, really cold, and they had very bad quarterback play. But some of the quarterback play is looking better because the running game's looking better. It's funny how one hand feeds the other when it comes to it all. Hey, we have some new listeners and some new watchers today because we now have more than 1,200 subscribers strong. Tell us about it, Joe.
Yeah, we ran an ad campaign over the weekend. Had some help here, kind of working with a company that kind of helps us run ad campaigns as far as like Google ad campaigns, things like that, looking at analytical data and stuff that I've saved over the course of us doing these things. So it's time to execute the game plan. I always knew that we're going to do things like this to kind of broaden the reach of the actual network itself. So over the weekend, we ran an ad campaign and it garnered us 1,233 subscribers strong. We're moving forward, going to keep on running ad campaigns about every other week to go ahead and reach, broaden the reach of the network. But thank you to everybody who's in the chat right now. I know it's a Monday, it was raining outside, but that we appreciate the faithful that come in and support what we do. Good morning to you guys, first and foremost, and welcome to the new listeners that are joining us for the first time.
We have a super chat coming on in. So if you're a new listener, just understand that you can help support this channel by giving us a super chat. There's a little dollar symbol there on your YouTube page there. $5.47 coming in from the Drew Show saying, figures. The only time Mr. Jimenez has any class is when he gets upgraded on the flight. And yes, is a Fat Albert Show Russell busting on Rudy joke. So again, I did first class yesterday. Does it really count, Joe? Chris Gonzalez earlier in the show says, Spirit first class, do you want a lawn chair or an airplane seat? So thank you so much for the super chat there, Drew. Had no idea, man. The only other time I'd ever flown first class was back when I worked at KSAT, and they were taking me back from Atlanta for a business trip. So they paid for it. I didn't pay for this, right? The girlfriend paid for the trip. So, or at least the flights anyway. Well, actually, she paid for a lot, to be honest with you. I paid for a lot of the food. But speaking of which, Joe, man, I got to get back on it, man. We did that this weekend. The weekend before, we were out in the hill country. The weekend before that, we were out and about, and I need to get back to working out, Joe, because I'm feeling a little fluffy, man. I feel a little bit fluffy. I got 6 games to referee this week, so I'll get back on it, man. I got to shave.
That's that love weight, man. That's what happens when you go out with the chica and you eat and you drink,
But, dude, have you ever been to Miami?
I've been there. It's nice, dude. There's a lot of things to do. It's expensive, but it's nice.
Dude, Miami was so much fun, man. The first night we were there, we went to a hookah lounge, which was across the street from the hotel. She had never tried hookah before, but was like a veteran within 3 minutes. So we did that for a while, got some mojitos. I'd always had like the regular mojito, but I didn't realize that there were different flavors of it.
Yeah.
So they were coming out with pineapple, but my favorite one was the mango one. So the mango mojito was great. We went out shopping a lot because we're doing our Christmas shopping early this year. I think we'll be done Christmas shopping by Thanksgiving. We don't want to do it anymore. Just get it done with, get it over with. We've already bought a lot for our kids, and our nephews and nieces and things like that. So we've taken care of so much. Probably about 80% of our shopping's done. Yesterday we were in Surfside, man, and I was watching the football games on my phone. So everyone's sleeping on the beach. It was 78 degrees. It wasn't cold. It wasn't hot. But I was there with my phone out watching all the games on YouTube TV, which was great. Speaking of the NFL, we have a lot to get into when it comes to the NFL tonight. We've got the Cowboys taking on the Houston Texans. Mike Stradamus is in the house. Is that what they're calling me here? Mike Stradamus?
You're calling yourself.
Yeah. Well, no. Tony and Alice on our YouTube stream calls me Mike Spurs Stradamus, I believe, right? I'm going to let you know something, Joe. I got a prediction for tonight's game, and it's going to be wild, dude.
Yeah.
I have a prediction for today's game. It's going to be wild. Do we want to get into this already, Joe? Do we want to get into the Cowboys-Texans game? Because on a temperature level here, 0 through 10, your confidence level of the Cowboys winning tonight's game against the Texans, who are coming off a collapse against the Detroit Lions, winning by a few touchdowns, collapse down the stretch. Texans are 6-4, 2 games ahead in their division coming into this week. What is your confidence level? Because the Cowboys have not won this year at AT&T Stadium up there in Dallas. They lost, got blown out in the playoffs last year out there at the AT&T. What is your confidence level, Joe?
Well, I'm going to read, before I tell you that, I'm going to give you the money lines, right, and the spreads that are going on right now. All right, so the spread, the game lines right now, the spread, they got the Texans at -7. Money line, Texas -38. Cowboys +290. The over-under, 41.5. First half spread, they got the Texans -4.5. Total, Texans total points, 24.5. The over-under in that is -105. As far as the over, the under is -125. Cowboy total points, 16.5. Their over-under, over is -110. The under is -120. So, I mean, given all the numbers that I'm seeing here, where everybody's saying, oh, the Texans are going to win, no problem. I like to go ahead and go against the grain on this one, man. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Cowboys. They're going to surprise the Texans. I think it's going to be a close game for the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are going to find a way to win.
You're stealing my thunder because I mentioned this last week. I said this is a trap game for the Texans. I mentioned this last week. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. And on top of that, I don't even think it's going to be close. I mean, the score might be close, but I think the Cowboys are going to dominate this game. Now, the Texans are going to get Nico Collins back. Nico Collins, stud wide receiver who was on track for 2,000 yards receiving after the first 4 games of the season before going down with an injury. He's back off the IR. He was back on the team last week against the Lions. They didn't bring him back onto the field, right? He was healthy enough to be on the roster, but not on the field. He's 100% today. He's going to be back. That's a big thing for C.J. Stroud, who's been struggling this year. The Texans might be 6-4, but make no mistake, they suck. Okay,
they were the worst 6-2 team in the NFL.
I told you that, Joe. Remember? You know what, Joe? Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing about our show, Joe. You and I are so right about so many different things, but everyone gives us, especially me, gives us grief for that 10% that we're wrong on. But what did I tell you when the Texans were 6-2? That team sucks. Remember? I was like, that's a crappy ass 6-2 team, man. Barely beating Indianapolis, barely beating Tennessee, having to like pull a game against Trevor Lawrence and Jacksonville Jaguars out of their ass. That Houston Texans team sucks, Joe. They have no offensive line. CJ Stroud is in a sophomore slump. That team sucks this year. They're the biggest fraud of a team this year compared to what they were last year, which was a good team. Now, do the Cowboys suck? Yes, but they're playing another team that sucks too. And I think the Cowboys might have enough pride tonight to actually man the F up, show up to Jerry World, put on the chin strap. You know what, Zeke Elliott or whoever's running, Rico Dowdle, whoever's running these days, I don't care. Cooper Rush won 5 games in Dak Prescott's absence a couple of seasons ago. Do it again.
You know what?
Do it again.
Irony in this whole thing, the Cowboys beat the Texans, and this is the one win the Texans need to kind of get into that playoff contention, and they're unable to make it because of this loss to the Cowboys. That would be the irony and everything, because the Cowboys are going nowhere fast, man.
So we have so many different people reaching out to us about that. Drew showed another $5.47 super chat. You got to tell us the importance of 547. Like, I mean, we dig it. 547 is better than 5, right? But there's got to be something involved with that. Says Mike thinks the Cowboys team with a quarterback who threw for 45 yards and a running back who fumbles in the end zone is going to beat the Texans. I'm just saying this, dude. These are two bad teams playing each other. One just happens to have a good record. They're bad teams. Think about it like in fantasy football perspective. You have that one team that's like 6-4, 7-3, and they're one of the worst scoring teams in all of fantasy football. They just happen to win because they play bad teams. That is what's going on with that. Chris Gonzalez coming out and saying the Cowboys are the slump buster of the NFL, thinking that the Texans are going to win. Big Sean PD saying biased take. Texans will slap the girls to sleep. Dude, I'm cheering for the Texans. I hate the Cowboys. Joe, am I a Cowboy fan?
Not at all, man.
Not at all. Am I a Cowboy fan? Not at all. Not at all. So it's not a biased take because here's the thing about the NFL. There's more parity in the NFL than any other sport. It's hard to have a team lose so many games in a row. I mean, even Carolina comes out of nowhere and bites a team for a victory, right? But if you look at the standings right now, Joe, Houston Texans, 6-4. You might think to yourself, okay, that's a good team. Well, they're 2-3 on the road. Much better team at home than they are on the road. Joe, they're a team that's given up more points than they've scored. Texans are 6-4. They've given up more points than they've scored. They're not a good team. They're not.
They're all right.
They're just all right, dude.
Right.
They've taken a step back. You might say it's because of injuries. I thought it was because of Nico Collins' injury, but it's deeper than that, man. CJ Stroud is not – they got tape on CJ, man. They know how to play him defensively. That offensive line is not very good. I don't know, man. Drew Show saying I'm hungover from Miami because the Texans look good at home against the Lions before they blew it. But they blew it. That's the whole point, Drew. They blew it. They blew that game. And every week is different than the other, man. Every week is different than the other. It's kind of funny, man. It's kind of funny. I think Dallas wins this game. I'm going to put a score out there, Joe. 23-21. I think Brandon Aubrey's I think 23-21, but I think Dallas wins handily. But the Texans score at late to make it a closer game. That's what I'm predicting. That's what I'm predicting.
Got the Cowboys over the Texans 34-27.
Yeah. 34-27.
Yeah.
And we're both on the same wavelength, Joe. Yeah. I like it.
And everybody in the chat, we don't never agree on things, right? But it's funny though, because everybody in the chat's now like, y'all are biased. You know, the Texans, they're gonna beat the Cowboys handedly. I'm just like, everything's telling me that this smells of upset. You know, that this reeks of an upset making. You could smell it like that Spurs fart that they had when the guys were coming out when they were introducing them. And everybody was going, woo, it stinks. That's what it smells like. Smells like a Cowboys win.
My burner account, JHNSB, says Texas winning easily. By the way, I was watching part of the show on Friday. Thank you to Fernandez and John Dyer for hosting the show along with you, Joe. Apparently, JHNSB is my burner account these days. I don't know. Drew Show, Mike, tell us the look the Lions and tell how the look of the Lions and see how the similarity is with Dallas. Go. It doesn't matter, dude. It's just two different games. You could. I mean, look at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? The Kansas City Chiefs the last 2 weeks, right? They're 7-0. They go off and they play Denver. Now Denver's playing good. Bo Nix had himself a game yesterday, right? They're playing better, but they played Denver, a team they should have rolled. And it took a blocked field goal kick, right? A blocked field goal kick, by the way, Joe, is the reason why Kansas City has not lost 2 games in a row. So Kansas City is coming back down to earth. That's the thing about football, man. It's any given Sunday, or as tonight will be any given Monday night, any team could win. And I think the team that's most fired up to win this game is going to be Dallas because they just suck. and they've been sucking for so long, and you can't lose so many games in a row. It's like a roulette wheel. It's not going to be red all day. It's not going to be black all day. It's going to average out. Revert to the mean. I mentioned that about Wemby shooting the other day. Revert to the mean. The Cowboys suck, but do they suck as bad as that? Yes, they suck, but not as bad as everyone thinks they suck. The Texans aren't as good as everybody thinks. It reverts back to the mean.
Yeah, look, the Cowboys, if they decide to play some defense here and they can go ahead and get pressure on CJ Stroud, force him to make some bad decisions, I think the Cowboys can keep the Texans honest. But anything can happen on any given day here. Cowboys are going to be playing a Monday Night Football game. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it just seems to me like this smells and reeks of an upset, man. So
it does.
We'll see what happens on Tuesday.
Fernandez reaches out to us saying, I remember when people were saying CJ Stroud was the second coming. Dude, I'm looking at CJ Stroud's stats. Dude hasn't had a good game in over a month.
He's just looking like a dude.
Just a dude. Against the Detroit Lions, the game that they blew, 232 yards passing, 2 interceptions, only 1 touchdown. Against the Jets, a game that they lost, 191 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Against Indy, 285 yards, 1 touchdown. Then he got hurt against the Green Bay Packers in that game, but he only had 86 yards. Before that, had 192 yards only against the Patriots. 3 touchdowns, though. It's been a while since he's had a good game. So you might say that he's due, but you can also say that he's not as good as he was last year. Good times, good times. Now, speaking of Jerry World, and we'll get to more NFL talk later on in the show. Jerry World was the site of that debacle over the weekend. The Netflix special, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul going at it for 8 rounds, 2 minutes apiece. Joe, this was the biggest piece of crap I've ever seen in my entire life, and I am embarrassed for boxing fans out there because I told everybody on this show multiple times that this was going to be a effing cluster F of a colossal collapse of the sport. Joe, why did no one believe me in this, Joe? Why did everybody think that some 58-year-old former champion who hasn't been good since 1992 was going to turn back the clock 30-some-odd years and actually put on a good performance? I know Jake Paul's not much of a boxer. I know he's a YouTuber turned athlete. Joe, we've got to stop nostalgia from corrupting our minds, from preventing us from having common sense. Dude, so many people that are huge boxing fans were like, dude, Mike Tyson's going to come out there. If you see that video of him working out, he looks good. He looks trim. I know he's old, man, but he looks trim. He looks great in those workout videos. Joe, it's just nostalgia, man. That dude hasn't been a good boxer since 92. And we expected when Mike Tyson walked into the ring, there at Jerry World. And I know the undercard was good, dude. I saw a couple of the undercard fights. Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So at least that was that. But that's not why people were there watching it. People weren't there to watch those 2 ladies box. People weren't there to watch Mario Barrios. No one cared unless you're like a boxing diehard.
Oh, I was a diehard. Me and Fernandez were watching them.
Diehards.
We were really diehards. And Barrios and Ramos, that was a good matchup right there, too. San Antonio's didn't win, but it was a great matchup. You know, Ramos won. He looked great out there. No doubt he was giving Barrios the business, and he won. And the other card, I think the fight of the night for me was the women's main event, Taylor and Serrano. That was a very good match right there.
A controversial scoring outcome at the end.
But it was one of the best female boxing matches that I've seen thus far this year. I mean, it was really good. But when you get to the Tyson Paul fight, this is the thing, man. This is an exhibition fight, and this stuff is scripted. To me, I think it looks like it's scripted, man, because Paul and Tyson come out. Tyson quickly goes and lands a couple punches on him, and then Paul comes back, and he's younger, right? He can dispatch Mike easily if he wanted to. They said after 4 rounds, it's an officially sanctioned fight, right? It wasn't officially sanctioned, but after four rounds, it's like legit, becomes legal, right? And it went past the 4 rounds, but I mean, basically, Paul was just standing around. Mike was just standing around, not really moving. You could tell he wasn't mobile. He was gassed. He was tired. This looked every bit as much of a 27, 28-year-old beating up on an old 58-year-old man who can't even really move at this point in his life. It was just a debacle. I mean, and the other thing that was a debacle, besides this shit show of a match here, was the buffering issue that Netflix encountered. And it was so funny because this is something they should anticipate. You're going to have sports now on your streaming platform. You should anticipate that a lot of people are going to come out and watch this, and everybody, including myself, we were watching the buffering for a little bit. I got the buffering maybe once or twice, but not as bad as everybody else. And it was hard to watch the fight because it was just buffering and buffering and and I understand the frustration because I had a lot of friends and family calling me, "Is it buffering for you? What's going on with it?" I'm like, "It's just there's just too much traffic on the servers. It can't handle it." It got so bad they had to go ahead and downgrade the stream that everybody was able to watch. I'm sure when you were watching it at Jerry World, it looked great, but when you're on Netflix trying to watch, it was probably like 480p, 240p. It looked really bad, dude. And people paid 20 something dollars for this, and everybody's like, I'm asking for my money back. I'm canceling immediately after this. They have the WWE coming up. They're going to have an NFL game that they're going to stream. I think the same things are going to continue to happen. Netflix makes $5 million plus a month, Mike. You would think at some point this company is valued over, I think, $300 billion, that they would somehow, some way make the decision to, increase their infrastructure to handle the influx of viewership. It's
Well,
a debacle.
here's the thing, man. The buffering happened to me watching that 4 times during the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight. So some people had no issues. Other people were were getting kicked out. It would freeze on mine. You'd have to get out of the app and get back into the app in order to get rid of it. You couldn't just hit refresh or whatever the case. You had to get out and get back in. We were talking about how this was an embarrassment of a fight, and I know you were calling this an exhibition.
It is.
But the fact of the matter is that boxing diehards weren't the ones leading this parade, okay? Because if 60 million households were watching it, which basically makes it kind of a mini Super Bowl, right? When you watch the Super Bowl, a lot of casuals watch. That's why 125 million people, 150 million people watch, is because half of them who watch are casuals. When you watch this boxing match yesterday, over the weekend, out of the 60 million, maybe 10% were diehards, 20. The other 80 were just people watching. You want to watch the spectacle, right? And you heard it in the crowd booing this entire thing. Dude, there was a fight in the stands during this boxing match.
There was several.
That was better than what was on the ring.
Let's
And
be
then
honest.
you see Jake Paul like kneeling. Dude, okay, so when they walk onto the floor, right? They get called out, right? They go into the ring
Entrance.
the entrance, the entrance song and all that stuff. Mike Tyson gets in the ring. He looked old, not just 58 old. He looked like they took him out of a nursing home old. Like he didn't know where the hell he was. Okay. They brought him out there. And do you know what this reminded me of, Joe? And no one I've heard of made this reference. So I'm proud of myself for this. Remember when Jesse Owens, the famed track and field star, 1936 Berlin Olympics, gold medalist, staring down Hitler, right? Winning these gold medals against Hitler. What was he doing towards the end of his career to make money? He was racing a racehorse. He was running against a racehorse.
Jeez, man.
That's what this reminds me of. It was like that embarrassing. Now, here's the thing. Mike Tyson, as much money as he's made and all the trouble he's been in, the dude was in debt. And he made $20 million to show up there. So good for him. But anybody, this was the biggest joke of a sporting event I've ever seen. And I know the undercard was great. The undercard was great. It was. But that's not why 80% of the crowd was watching. 80% of the crowd was there to watch the main event. And the main event was an absolute turd of a show. And on top of that, you had the buffering issues with Netflix. And Netflix coming out and making a joke about it on their social media platforms the next day. Making jokes about the buffering. And like you said, they're going to be hosting other sporting events that are going to be just as important. And Amazon gets it right? Amazon Prime gets it right. Peacock does an amazing job with the Olympics.
No
They
buffering.
got it right. Netflix just sucked ass. And you know what? Netflix, Joe, you know how people cut the cord?
Yeah.
I started cutting streaming services the other day. I finally started doing it. I cut Paramount. Paramount was the first one to go. Joe, I cut Max. I mean, what formerly HBO Max was good. Peacock is next. And I'm thinking about it, Joe. I'm looking over at Hulu at Netflix. I'm thinking to myself, why do I watch Netflix? Netflix right now is like Blockbuster Video back in the day, but the middle aisles. It's the middle aisles. No new releases, just the middle aisles. Just give me Hulu and give me Peacock, and I think I'm okay.
Got a $4.99 incoming super chat here from Taco Tuesday. We appreciate you all on the super chat. Thank you so much. Tyson walking around bare-assed was a real preview of the fight. Wasn't that so weird, though? He goes over there, that guy's interviewing, he goes and gives him a kiss. I love you too, man. And then he walks away like a badass and like basically just see his bare ass.
I know. Like that wasn't planned or scripted, dude.
Oh,
when Jake Paul does like that whole thing where so Tyson got one good punch in, right? And Jake Paul starts like, throwing his tongue out. And then like towards the end, Jake Paul going, well, I didn't want to knock him out. I respect him so much, Joe. He's an old man. I didn't want to knock. Why the F are you there? Why the F are you there? The only good thing about this, Joe, is that we didn't spend a dime to do it because our Netflix subscriptions were there to begin with, right?
Look at this wiki. Thanks for that comment. He puts Tyson was ass. He foreshadowed it before the fight too. Walking around bare ass. Oh
yeah.
God, dude. But I mean, the fight was. It was a hot piece of garbage as far as the main event. But the undercards were good. Netflix just needs to do better, man. If they're going to be wanting to contend in the fray in the sports venue with all these other streaming services, that's not going to fly, man. People are going to want to go ahead and drop their subscriptions, and they're just going to wind up losing money. Right now, Netflix needs to issue an apology and give the people something for free or a discount on their next bill or something for this debacle. I mean, it was embarrassing.
Now, Sith Elias coming out saying, LOL, Logan Paul, I'll kill you, MFer, when they asked Mike Tyson if it was his last fight. Yeah. And he goes, well, maybe I'll fight him. And Logan Paul was like, I'll kill you, MFer. That was a big turnoff, dude. I mean,
stupid.
Dude, okay, first of all, let me ask you this, Joe. Okay, because I like boxing. Okay. I'm not going to say that I'm a diehard at boxing, but I'm a big fan of a good fight. Okay. There was a point in time, Joe, when Floyd Mayweather Jr. was fighting that I stopped watching because it was awful TV. And I know the boxing purists out there, the super boxing fans, could be like, oh, no, it's the sweet science of look how good he is defensively and he doesn't get hit. And I'm looking there going, dude, this is boring as shit. Watching Floyd Mayweather was boring as shit. And there was a point in time when I was like, I don't care who he fights. I don't care who he fights. I don't want to watch anymore. It's boring.
Yeah.
I am like that with Jake Paul and Logan Paul. I don't care. How did everybody get wrapped up into these two dudes? Why? Because they're YouTubers?
They have a lot of influence and they have a lot of money. They know the right people, and that's how they got to where they got to right now. And you like them or hate them, think about what these exhibition fight is or what have you. The one thing you got to commend these guys on is that they know how to go ahead and turn a profit. And this was a profitable venture for them once again, even though Netflix had the problems they did. I mean, they're making the money. They're making money. And the funny thing, too, that Cowboy fans got to ask yourself is, yes, there are curtains over there at Cowboy Stadium because they used them for this fight. And I bet you Cowboy fans that came in at Jerry World to go ahead and watch the fight, they were probably like, we got curtains,
Exactly.
we got curtains. We could go ahead and do this for a Cowboy game. Jerry won't have it, but there were a slew of celebrities that went to the fight, including Ralph Macchio and
Billy
William
Zabka.
Zabka. Cobra Kai never dies. And the one thing that was hard for me to watch, and me and my son were watching this fight, and when they were doing the interviews in between, the hyping up and kind of breaking down what's going to happen and whatnot with the analysts, why did they have Cedric the Entertainer there, man? The guy didn't know what the hell was going on, trying to insert himself into the conversation. It was embarrassing, dude. It's like, why is this dude here? Yeah. That's all.
I
he
didn't
wanted.
even know he was alive,
I'm
dude.
like, dude,
That's I thought he died. How is
no, man.
he pops up over there, dude. There's a reference in TV that is very commonly known as jumping the shark. And jumping the shark alludes to that one episode of Happy Days way back when, 35, 40 years ago, when Fonzie jumps over a shark while water skiing. And that was the moment in time when everyone realized that show has gone from being good to now it sucks and it's corny. Jumping the shark. Yeah, that fight right there was an epic jumping of the shark moment. Logan Paul, Jake Paul will never have an audience as big as that ever again. It doesn't matter who they have. The only one that they could have is one that we know is going to kick their ass because they set things up to win, right? They set things up to fight people who have no chances of winning, even though it's a former heavyweight champion in Mike Tyson, 58 years old. I saw a meme the other day that said if Muhammad Ali was in hospice still, they would have tried to have booked a fight with Muhammad Ali, right? They're not going to fight anybody of substance. The only one that's going to get them the ratings where people are going to care and will watch is if it's Canelo. But we know Canelo would kill him.
Canelo's not going to fight him. I know Jake Paul wants that fight to happen. Canelo's never going to agree to it.
Okay.
Salinas puts, why did they have Rosie Perez calling the fight? If you know about Rosie Perez, if you really know about her, she's been an avid boxing fan for many, 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 many years. The lady knows her stuff, man. So she's not just an actress. She's also a boxing aficionado.
Yeah. She's amazing. Her career is completely underrated, man. Completely underrated. But, Joe, aside from a Canelo fight, they jumped the shark. There's nothing more that they can do. We're all going to remember this, Joe. We're all going to remember how bad of a fight this was. And beyond all that, it's only 8 rounds instead of 12. The whole thing about it's 2-minute rounds instead of 3. It's a joke.
The gloves
dude,
too, man.
Dude, and everyone's nostalgia tugged at the heartstrings that we were going to see this. Dude, the last time Mike Tyson was any good in a boxing ring, the Cowboys were good at football. Okay? We're winning Super Bowls. That was the last time he was relevant. Dude, Buster Douglas sucked the life out of Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was never the same, dude. Do you know what this is like? This would be like 10 years from now believing that Tiger Woods is going to do anything at a major tournament. It's done. Yeah. It's been done. And the nostalgia of it all. And again, for those of you who are diehard boxing fans and you got to see the undercard and you're really happy with it, great. Guess what? You're part of the 10 or 15% who gave a shit. The other 85% were there to watch Tyson Paul.
Yeah, and they also had some good boxing happening on Saturday as well. And they also had that the Stipe fight and John Jones fight.
Yeah.
And that was all right too. I didn't really get to watch them because I was busy hanging out with some friends of mine. But I was keeping up, and I saw that Jones did go ahead and win against Stipe, so I saw the kick that he gave him. I mean, that was to be expected. John Jones is a high caliber fighter. Stipe, he was already at the tail end of his career.
Can I tell you my favorite stat of the day when it comes to sports? So yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens lost again, right? They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, by the way, how did the Cowboys beat the Steelers? Cowboys don't have very many wins, but they beat a Steelers team that for some reason just keeps racking up W's.
Yeah,
right?
Steelers, I guess, didn't really they underestimated the Cowboys and they didn't come and execute their game plan, and things like that happen any given Sunday. Doesn't matter what the record is. A team with the losing record can beat a team with the better record, or even the better team can lose to the lesser team, and that's what happened with the Steelers. Ever since then, they've been winning games, and they're at first in their division ahead of the Ravens. The Ravens, unfortunately, keep losing.
Joe, let me ask you this question. 2 football games. If a quarterback throws for 820 yards and 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. 820 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. Is that good? It's amazing, right? In 2 games.
Yeah.
That's what Joe Burrow did against the Baltimore Ravens and lost both games.
And
428 and 4 touchdowns, 392 and 5 touchdowns, lost both games, yet the Ravens lost to a team that didn't score an offensive touchdown.
You know what? The thing, too, with the Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati fans, man, you got to pour some out for them yesterday against the Chargers, dude. I'm like, are you kidding me, man? I mean, they looked like they were left for dead, Mike. And then they came back in that second half. They were able to go ahead and tie the game. I was like, damn, this could be like looked upon if the Bengals would have won. It's like one of the biggest turnarounds here, or upsets in NFL history. I'm like, man, am I going to see history in the making here? But you know what? The Bengals did everything they could. Joe Burrow did everything he could. That fucking kicker needs to be fired immediately. No, you're point blank right there. And then he missed like 3 or 4 kicks that could have won the game. I'm like, that kicker, man. I don't like to blame kickers or say, oh, it comes down to a field goal. But I mean, come on.
You know how when the Cowboys lose, everyone blames Dak, and sometimes Dak has a decent game or he puts up a lot of stats because he gets the junk stats at the end of the game. Joe Burrow is not like that, dude. Joe Burrow is having an amazing season this year. It's just the rest of the team sucks. It's like, do you know who it reminds me of? Andrew Luck. Remember Andrew Luck who left in his 20s because he was so good, but the team sucked around him.
He's all messed up, dude. He's all banged up.
That's going to be Joe Burrow, man. That's going to be Joe Burrow's there going, I'm doing my part. You all suck. I somehow am getting 300 and 400 yards, not junk stats, real stats, getting 3 or 4 touchdowns a game, and we're still losing. I'm doing my job. Joe Burrow can't play defense, man. He can't. And they give up too many points. Lots of storylines. Dude, the Bears lost to the Packers again. Bears lined up for a 45-yard kick, which should be a gimme. Blocked. Yeah. And again, the Packers own the Bears. The Bears, Caleb Williams, not having a great rookie campaign.
No.
But this is the second time that he got them within scoring range to win the game that they ended up losing. They lost 20-19 to the Packers. The Lions, 52-6 over the Jaguars. Everyone talking about Lamar Jackson as MVP candidate, Josh Allen, all that stuff. Dude, just give it to Jared freaking Goff. Dude, the Lions are now 9-1. We now believe that the Lions are the best team in the NFL, right? I know that all the power rankings had to say that it was the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs haven't looked good in the last few weeks or so. They won those games, except yesterday they lost to the Bills. But, man, 52-6 over Jacksonville. Again, you roll over these bad teams. Jared Goff, 412 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Think he's good? That running game of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs combined for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. Amar St. Brown and Jameson Williams, both with 124 yards plus, combined for 3 touchdowns. Dude, Detroit stays healthy. I don't see any team coming out of the NFC beating them. Other games along the way. Vikings beat the Titans 23-13, inching closer to the playoffs. Dolphins beat the Raiders 34-19. That's, man, both tight ends blew up. Sonu and Brock Bowers had huge touchdowns. Bowers had like an 85-yarder. Sonu had like a 67-yarder, had 2 touchdowns on the game. Bowers, though, refused to answer questions after the game because of his touchdown celebration. I don't know if you saw that, but he did the Donald Trump celebration he did the Donald Trump dance.
Yeah.
They asked him about it. He got pissed. He ended up canceling the interviews. Rams beat the Patriots 28-22. The Saints. Okay, now the Saints have a better record than the Cowboys. Okay, so now can we say that they're better than the Cowboys if they have one more win and they beat the Cowboys head-to-head, Joe? Are the Saints better than the Cowboys?
The Saints, yeah. Your record, what is the thing? You're only as good as your record says you are, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Taysom Hill went off yesterday. There's that one game a year where Taysom Hill goes off, and that was yesterday's game. Taysom Hill had 3 touchdowns on the ground. Dude, imagine if a Cowboy did this, Joe. Alvin Kamara, the starting running back, had 16 carries for 67 yards, right? That's all right? It's like 4 yards per carry. It's not bad. Taysom Hill, 7 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns, including a 75-yard touchdown. Dude, Taysom Hill also caught 8 receptions. He was all over the place. Fantasy god Taysom Hill yesterday. Saints are 4-7 and now just 2 games behind the first-place Falcons, who lost again. Other games. So talk about the Falcons. They lost to the Broncos 38-6. Bo Nix looking amazing there for Sean Payton. Steelers beat the Ravens 18-16. Colts beat the Jets 28-27. Is it possible, Joe, that Aaron Rodgers is just picking up a check?
It's possible, man. Could be at this point. I mean, he looks washed, dude. I mean, you can tell he don't got it no more. And the Jets, they don't have a quarterback to speak of other than just Rodgers. I mean, they do got a backup, but they got no quarterback right now. You know, and speaking of quarterbacks, since we're on that subject right now, I'm going to go ahead and show this because I've already seen this, and it's one of the topics I wanted to talk about. But we're seeing that the news breaking here.
Wow.
Is going to be Yahoo Sports has been reporting since 3 hours ago, and I retweeted this earlier before the show. The Giants are expected to replace Daniel Jones with Tommy DeVito as their new starting quarterback, per Adam Schefter.
DeVito's coming back, my man, dude. The Italian stallion coming on back. I mean, he had a couple of pretty decent games last season when Daniel Jones was out. That's interesting. Speaking of quarterback play, by the way, Brock Purdy, whatever happened to Brock Purdy? CJ Stroud's not the only one having a sophomore slump. Brock Purdy as well. Brock Purdy yesterday, just 159 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The Seahawks come back to beat the 49ers 20-17. The Niners are now 5-5. Seattle's now 5-5. Christian McCaffrey came back, had over 100 yards, all-purpose yards. Didn't matter. They lost again. This San Francisco team might not even make the playoffs, Joe. Whoever's going to win that division is going to make the playoffs, right? Right now you have Arizona Cardinals at 6-4, the Rams, Seahawks, and Niners at 5-5. And because of tiebreakers, Joe, the Niners are actually in last place in that division. If the season ended right now, they would not get in the playoffs. You look at Atlanta. Atlanta's lost 2 in a row. Tampa Bay's lost 4 in a row, and they're my stupid Saints. Winners of 2 in a row, inching their way closer into the playoff hunt. Get to 9 wins, and you got a chance. Make it happen. And I'm looking at the Saints schedule. They're going to draw me back in, Joe.
No.
They're going to draw me back in because they got some winnable games coming up, Joe. Here's what they got.
What do they got?
The Rams. All right. Okay. The Giants. Saints could beat the Giants, Joe. They win both of those games. They're back at almost 500. Look at that, man. Then they got later on in the season, they've got the Raiders and they've got Tampa Bay. They do have a home game against the Commanders that they got to deal with, but they're going to draw me back in. I got a feeling they're going to draw me back in when it's all said and done. My Saints are on a bye week this upcoming week, so they got 2 weeks to prepare for the Rams.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the Chiefs losing.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and stop right here and give a quick pause, give a shout out to MCS General Contracting, and we'll come back here after a couple seconds. MCS General Contracting, more than 30 years of combined experience in concrete placement. They are the best in the business, honest pricing, high quality work. They get going on house foundations, driveways, concrete patio decks. If you want to extend the deck, extend the driveway. If you're a business and you need to put together a slab, a parking lot, or other concrete placement services or sidewalks, Reach out to MCS General Contracting at 210-774-9155. They're confident in their skills, so give Chris Leha over at MCS General Contracting a call at 210-774-9155. And thank you for being a sponsor of this show. That's right. If you want to get that diamond hard concrete in your life, you got to go ahead and call MCS General Contracting. Go ahead and give my boy Chris Leha a call. His number is 210-774-9155. If you're a business or you just need a pickleball court, you need a parking lot, pool, maybe a landing like Mike has over at his house.
That's right.
It's done by MCS General Contracting. Go ahead and give them a call. Again, the number is 210-774-9155.
Got that diamond hard concrete, man. They did an amazing job. They did a very, very, very good job. Joe, I just got alerts right now. The Referee Association wants me to do games 4 nights in a row: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, I said I was looking puffy. Joe, here's some games. I'm doing the Reagan girls varsity game tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. That's going to be over at Reagan to take it on San Marcos. Sotomayor High School. I got them going on Wednesday. Pease Middle School. Hey, Joe, maybe in your neck of the woods. You want to come by Pease Middle School?
Right down the street.
And then I've got a boys varsity tournament at Cornerstone on Friday. It's going to be crazy, dude. It's going to be crazy.
You know, they were showing, too, like I was saying, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Chiefs finally losing one here.
Yeah.
Man. And the thing is that this was a good game. Chiefs actually finally lost to the Bills by a final score of 30-21. And all the chatter was, you know, is Josh Allen the favorite to win MVP? And, you know, I'm going to go ahead and show his highlight here. He actually won the game for the Bills with his legs, man. Look at that. Fourth quarter, under a little over 2 minutes left. And look at, he's just taking off, man. He's like, I'm not losing this one. I'm not losing anymore. I'm not going to let the refs dictate this game for him.
Yeah, because, you know, you don't get that. It's a field goal. Or actually, you don't get that. Kansas City gets the ball back, and it's just a field goal to win the game. Exactly. Right? And you know that you get – and that's the ballsy play that you have there. Remember that game the other day? What was that play where they didn't go for 2? What team was that again? It was against Kansas City where the game got tied, and they should have gone for 2 to win the game. And instead, they gave the ball to Patrick Mahomes, and Mahomes went out there and got a touchdown to end the game. It was like, well, wait a minute. You're on the road. That was against Tampa Bay, right? So you put the ball in the hands of your best player, and you tell them to go win the game, right? Yep. And you prevent a player like Tom Brady. You prevent a player like Patrick Mahomes, an all-time great, from getting the ball all over again to beat you, because you give them 2 minutes, they're going to beat you. 2-minute warning and 2 minutes of playtime, they're going to beat you. So they did the right thing. Josh Allen probably did reassert himself as the favorite right now to be MVP, though I would say I would give the award to Jared Goff right now. Saquon Barkley is also in the mix. I think Lamar Jackson's candidacy took a hit. I think that Patrick Mahomes' candidacy took a hit, because we all know that the Chiefs, even though they were undefeated going into this game, are not as good as advertised. They get helped out by the officials a lot. They're barely winning games. You know, there's just something wrong there in Kansas City. And this is the second week in a row where they got manhandled. So Kansas City is not as good as advertised. They're getting a little bit old. Kelsey's 35 years old now. He's getting old. There's too many injuries. I know they had Juju Smith-Schuster come back yesterday. Didn't do much of anything. Too many injuries. It adds up, man. It adds up. But I think about Buffalo, Joe. I heard that some of the fans over there are referring to them as America's team. And, okay, so I don't know where I want to go with that, but I think about what it's like to be a Buffalo Bills fan. I know Cowboy fans right now are upset that it's been 28 years since they've been a Super Bowl champion, right? The Buffalo Bills have had 50 years of getting close.
Yeah, those couple trips that they had in a row there to the Super Bowl didn't garner
4 in a row.
a win.
Jim Kelly took them 4 times the Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
Scott Norwood's kick was off to the right. Would have wide right, would have won them a Super Bowl. I think it was against the Giants, if I'm not mistaken. And then, they got their asses handed to them by the Cowboys. It was like 56-7. I don't know what the scores were, but it was something close to that. 56-17 or something like that. 52-17 is what it was. And then you have these Josh Allen years where they're good enough to get to the Super Bowl, but they've got Patrick Mahomes in front of them, right? So it's been very, very difficult for their fans. And Bills Mafia Nation, man, Bills Mafia, those fans are legit. If you're going to rank the top 5 fan bases in NFL football, the Buffalo Bills are up there.
Yeah, we got a new name here in the chat. Here. We've had a new name here in the chat. She's commented a couple of times already. Want to give a shout out to Joanne
Tomko.
Man.
Love me some Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's a great player, man. He's a great, great player. But imagine the ecstasy that would happen to upstate New York if Buffalo actually won a Super Bowl. They get close a lot, man. 4 years in a row back in the 80s and early 90s. They get Josh Allen. They get so close. They get a team that goes 13-3, 14-3. They get these really, really good teams, and then they lose to Kansas City each and every time. Yesterday, what did Patrick Mahomes say after the game? Goes up to Josh Allen and says, "We'll see you again. We'll see you again." And I believe it. The problem is that back when they've seen them again, the problem is that Kansas City always had the better team. I don't think Kansas City has a better team, especially when you get players like Amari Cooper joining Buffalo, who I know he's battling injuries, but still, they've improved their roster. Joe, I'm not a believer in Kansas City. I'm selling Kansas City stock right now. I'm probably going to look like an idiot because I'm saying that, but I've been selling it for a while. I'm buying stock of Buffalo. I'm oddly enough buying stock of Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh just defensively is just doing a bang-up job, man. They're keeping the score tight and close.
Yeah, they are.
It's great times, man. Great times. Tony Analysis reaches out to us on our YouTube stream and says, "Hit the like button, Necios."
Yeah,
that's right, baby.
Give us some love. But we're going to take another quick pause here. When we come back, we're going to get into the latest college AP poll, and then we're going to talk about the state of the San Antonio Spurs and Wemby coming kind of back down to earth again. So we'll be back after this shout out here to our good friend Jeff Garcia of the Locked On Spurs podcast. Locked On Spurs is your daily Spurs podcast hosted by Jeff Garcia, the lead Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Jeff has a healthy plethora of guests all the time on the Locked On Spurs podcast. You can also follow Jeff on threads at Jeff G Ken's 5 SA. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. So make sure you go ahead and give Jeff a follow not only on threads and Twitter, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/@LockedOnSpurs. This is where you're going to be able to find the replay of the Locked On Spurs podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. And there you go. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to that Locked On Spurs podcast. Jeff is 5,000 subscribers strong, and he's looking to go ahead and make some waves. So make sure you go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the Locked On Spurs podcast, and also follow Jeff on the X at Jeff G Spurs Zone, and you can also follow him on Instagram as well. You can follow him on the thread. So make sure you go ahead and check him out.
Hey, Joe, isn't there like a new social media platform that everyone was talking about?
Yeah, Blue Sky's been around for a while. Some of the makers or some of the employees, should I say, of the X, which used to be formerly known as Twitter, they kind of defected and made their own social media platform called Blue Sky. And Blue Sky's been around for a little bit here. You can go ahead and download that. I believe you can get it on either the Apple Store, or the Google Play Store. And a lot of people are starting to defect over there to Blue Sky. It's a new thing, man. If you look at Threads is kind of dead. Everybody's getting tired of the X, and the X has actually been losing subscribers by the millions because everybody's going over to Blue Sky. So that might be something worth looking into.
It might be. Dude, before Elon Musk took over Twitter was great, man. Twitter was amazing. And now, dude, I get spammed with so many bots and so many like not safe for work things in my inboxes and things like that, dude. It's just gone to crap, dude. It really has. But you can follow me on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste, because where else am I going to be, right? You got to just deal with it, right?
Yeah, Jason Garcia brought up this too, and I saw this earlier yesterday during the football games and whatnot. ESPN brought the rights to that one show that you hate with Ernie, with Shaq, with Charles, Inside the NBA. They brought the rights to that. So now Inside the NBA could possibly have a new home over there with ESPN. So that's a thing now, man. So
well, we know Ernie Johnson's going to be hanging him up. Ernie Johnson has already announced the fact that he has health issues and he's going to hang him up eventually. And so that show's not going to be the same. Maybe it gives a runway for Chuck and for Shaq and for Kenny Smith to do their thing. But one thing we know about ESPN, they've been cutting talent like crazy, man. They've been cutting talent.
Younger. They're trying to get younger, which is a smart thing. You want to get younger because you want to get that viewership from that 20-something crowd, and I think they're doing that with the Pat McAfee show and making these cuts to cut some of these old heads. You got to start looking at Stephen A. Smith and when his time is coming to an end. I know they extended him recently, but that could possibly be the last contract that he's going to have with ESPN. If they start getting younger, they're going to start going ahead and want to transition. I know Inside the NBA has a lot of fans, and it's a show that's really watched among NBA aficionados. So they're doing that to increase their ratings, but overall the ratings across the NBA are down right now. So
so let's get. We're going to talk about Wemby, Spurs, but you wanted to go over the top 25 of college football right now. Do you have the rankings right now?
Yep.
AP top 25 poll is out. Oregon remains at number 1, Ohio State at 2, Texas at 3, Penn State at 4, Indiana. Look at Indiana go, baby. Indiana going to make some noise in the playoffs. They're at number 5, Notre Dame at 6, Bama at 7, Georgia left for dead coming back is at number 8, Ole Miss at 9, Tennessee at 10. Then you have Miami, Boise State, SMU. SMU was down to the third quarter of their game this past weekend, came back from behind. I was there going, I was cheering them on. BYU at 14. They got their first loss of the year. A&M at 15. Colorado, Joe, at 16. Deion Sanders already hoping his guy, the two-way star, is going to win Heisman Trophy. He's already said it's done. It's done. But I'd like to see Colorado in the playoff, because then you'd see Deion Sanders be part of the mix and all of that stuff. That'd be great. But those are the top 25. A lot of people upset at Quinn Ewers. 20-10 was not enough for them, right?
Yeah, wasn't enough. But the thing with UT is that UT has some games coming up here as well. So they got 2 games left on their season. One of the last games is going to be against Kentucky on Saturday at 2:30, and then the last game of the season is going to be the one that all the fans are going to get up for, because this is going to be against Texas A&M, man.
Dude, that Kentucky game scares me. That Kentucky squad, I'm not saying they're as good as Texas, but what I'm saying is they play tough in the first half in a lot of games. But Quinn Ewers had 2 touchdown passes for Texas as they beat Arkansas 20-10. It just a lot of Texas Longhorn fans were like, it's not impressive enough. And if you look at it, Joe, Texas hasn't beaten a good team all year, man. They haven't beaten a good team. They are 9-1. Not one quality win among them. I know they beat the second-ranked Michigan Wolverines. Where's Michigan on this list here, Joe?
Nowhere
to be found, right? I'm looking at it. Nowhere to be found.
What's their name? Gone.
Has Texas beaten any of these teams? And if you scroll the top 25, has Texas beaten any of these teams? Not one. Not a one. Oklahoma sucks. We were all excited about Oklahoma win. We're all excited about the Michigan win. The only team that they played of any relevance was Georgia, and Georgia spanked their ass. We're going to find this out, Joe, that maybe Texas is just not that good.
I don't know. They're going to have to go ahead and perform when they get into their playoff, man. It's like you win or you go home. That's as simple as that. So hopefully they can win big when it matters the most.
Yeah. There was no Wemby in the last game for the Spurs.
Man.
Again, a lot of Spurs fans were upset about that because they're like, "Hey, we're only 1 month into the season. Why are we load managing him?" Which is what they were doing, man. I'm not going to sit here and say that he had an injury. That was load management, right, Joe? But they've got TNT tomorrow. I mean TNT Thunder on TNT tomorrow. 8:30 tip off. Thunder favored by 6.5 points. We're going to see Chet Holmgren go up against Wemby again. Now we're going to see SGA go up against Castle. Joe, what I'm taking out of this here, I know we're going to get some Wemby talk here, but Stephon Castle, since he's been inserted as a starter, 6 games, double figures all 6 games. 14 points against Portland, 23 against Utah, 10 against Sacramento, 10 against Washington, 22 against the Lakers, and 12 against the Dallas Mavericks. When he played against the Lakers, we saw LeBron James walking off the court, talking up Stephon Castle, saying, "I like it when young guys come to the league and make a difference early on, that guy is going to be really good." When LeBron James has his 4th straight triple-double against the Spurs, and the one thing he wants to talk about is whoever that guy wearing number 5 is pretty damn good. Doesn't that warm the heart, Joe? Doesn't that make you feel good as a Spurs fan when LeBron James, one of the 2 or 3 best players of all time, comes out and says, "Hey, man, that guy you got in the draft this year is pretty damn good."
Yeah, I was saying, when we were talking about Castle, the kid is legit, man. He's shown that he can play at a high level, even if he doesn't score in double digits every single game. You like his basketball IQ, you like his motor out there. He's always busy, always running around, trying to keep up with his, assignment because he plays really good defense, man. I like this kid a lot, and it's going to be a hard case, when Sarah Sohan gets healthy. Do you still roll with Castle? I mean, what are you going to do? Do you put Devin Vassell in this? He's going to be in the starting lineup, eventually when he gets off his minutes restrictions. What is that starting lineup going to look like? And what is that second unit going to look like? I mean, there's a lot of tough decisions to be made here. And the one thing with Wemby had that great 50-point performance, that everybody was raving about when he played against the Wizards. Then you go and play against the Lakers, and he got outplayed by AD, and that's bound to happen. AD's a great player in his own right. It just shows Wemby, I think, that he has a lot more room for improvement here. If he wants to play up against the greats, he's got to level up. But the Spurs lost their first game of the tourney, the in-season tourney here against the Lakers. Now they have the second, stage here of the tourney coming up against the Thunder. That's going to be tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Then after they play the Thunder, they're going to go ahead and play the Jazz, and then they have the Warriors. So that's going to be their schedule upcoming here. And again, the Jazz is a team that's not very good, but they were good enough to beat the Spurs. So the Spurs got to get up for these games here. I think if the Spurs decide to actually play, they can actually beat the Thunder because they're not going to have Chet in the lineup right there. So
I forgot about the injury.
Wemby's size can give them a little bit of a fit, but the thing is, they got no answer for Shai, man. Shai, he balls.
You're going to stick Castle on him. I mean, that's the only thing that you can do. Now, Wemby's 3-point shooting in the last game against the Lakers came back down to earth, but it wasn't awful. I mean, he took a lot of threes. I think he was 4 of 13 from 3. Not great night shooting, but it wasn't an awful night shooting. So I'm not going to bag on him when it comes to it. But then I just want to let you guys know, I mentioned this last game. He had a 50-point performance, and everyone's like, he should be shooting a ton of threes. Again, it's a reversion to the mean. He is a 30 to 35% three-point shooter, right? He ain't going to be shooting 50%. He had a hot week. So he had a hot week back, had a hot month back in January of last year. Doesn't mean he's a three-point shooter. Just means that he had a hot month. What do we say, Joe? He was throbbing.
Jeez, bro.
Sometimes you throb, right? Castle has been looking good from 3. Castle, now, take that back. Looking better from 3, not looking good. Looking better. He's looking more confident. He's taking it to the hoop. He's playing good defense. He missed a big shot down the stretch in the last minute of the game against the Lakers, but he took the shot, and it was close. Okay, he didn't brick it. He didn't airball it. It was close. People are on here asking the question, well, who cares, Midtown Texas? Who cares what LeBron thinks? I do. Because if he's saying something positive about our rookie, and this is somebody who has seen a lot of players out there, and if one of the first things that he wants to say when walking off the court is, that little 19-year-old kid over there is pretty damn good, and that 19-year-old kid is wearing black and silver with a Spurs logo on it, I do care what LeBron has to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at this. I mean, these are the stats from the game, from your starting five there. I mean, you had Champagny had 10 points. Harrison Barnes had 8. Wemby, he had a decent game, man. He had 28 points for the night. Stephon Castle balled out too. He had 22. And then you look at Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Chris Paul. Chris Paul had 11. Keldon Johnson had 12. Devin Vassell had 15 points on the night. And that was about it. Booty crumbs. Zach Collins was booty crumbs. I don't even know why they gave this brother minutes, man. Put somebody else out there.
On top of that, LeBron got away with like one of the most ridiculous traveling non-calls you'll ever see to help put the game away. Man, he took like 5 steps on that play. Couple of things. You mentioned that Wemby had 28 points per game. I did finally do the math behind Wemby with and without Sochan out there. Joe, the numbers are in. And Wemby is significantly better offensively with Sochan off the court than he is with him on the court, depending on when he's out there. Because I went back in time, Joe. Last season, when Wemby played with Sochan, Wemby averaged 21 points per game. Not bad. 21 points per game. Did the math. When Sochan missed games because of injury, and he missed like 6 games that they would have played together, Wemby averaged 26.5 points. 5.5 points more rebounds than average, more assists than the average, and more blocks. He averaged 5 blocks per game when Sochan wasn't out there. This season, Joe, Wemby's averaging 18 points per game when Sochan plays, and 27 points per game with Sochan out with injury. Dude, the shooting percentages are higher. This year, though, the rebounds are kind of like still the same, maybe a little bit lower, still pretty good. But the evidence is there. I know it's only a 13-game sample, Joe, but how many games need to go by before we realize that Sochan is detrimental to Wemby offensively, that they don't fit together offensively? They might fit together defensively, but offensively they don't.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Mitch Johnson's going to have to think about when you get a healthy Sochan. Where does he fit in the context of this team moving forward? Are you going to go ahead and kind of mess up the chemistry that's being built right now with this starting unit with Castle, that you have there in the fray, and you're going to go ahead and put Sochan back in? Or do you have Sochan just come off the bench in that second unit? And like Fernandez was saying, Rick, we were talking about this on Friday. He's like, there's really no shame in coming off of that bench, because you're still going to be able to play with some of the starting 5. It's that transition phase between still playing with the the starters on the court, but at the same time you're still going to have a mix of some of the second string or the bench players coming out as well. So you're still getting the best of both worlds. It's not like there's any shame that, I'm a be delegated to the bench. I think Sochan coming off the bench might give the bench more balance, because now you have Keldon Johnson, and if Sochan's in the fray with that second unit, Keldon Johnson can be Keldon Johnson, and he's going to have a better looking shots that he can take that are going to go down. So his point production might actually go up because of Sochan.
JHNSB reaches out to us and reminds us that Sochan was a bench player at Baylor. He was a 6th man over there. That he became a lottery pick, but he wasn't a starter. He was a 6th man. Keldon Johnson, by the way, when he was at Kentucky, was also the 6th man over there, right? So there's no shame in it. Give him the minutes, but you got to get the pieces of the Rubik's Cube together. The colors need to all line up, right? The colors that line up show that Wemby does very well when Mamu's out there. Wemby does very well when Castle's holding the ball. It's a thing, Joe. We're seeing it, and Sochan is going to have a wonderful NBA career, make a lot of money, right? But as long as he's wearing bling on the bench right now and almost getting into altercations with other players, while on street clothes, Joe, the evidence is becoming more and more clear that they don't mix. And let's go back to that one post right there by Matt Lerma, because he's saying hate. He's saying that I hate Sohan. It says, Mike almost made a whole show without having to hate on Sohan. I thought the world was going to be slightly better for a second. It's not a hate. It's kind of like my thing with Pop. I don't hate Pop. I just don't think he's the right coach for the situation. And you know what? That's proven to be true, by the way. May he get better. But when it comes to Sohan, I'm just pointing out they don't fit together. Those are two pieces. Those are two puzzle pieces that don't fit. And it's like, I'm the dick for pointing that out. And James Pledger from San Antonio Sportscast would say that I'm a dick for pointing it out so early. Like, I didn't give them a chance to try to see if they could resolve that. I don't see it as being resolved, Joe. The only way that I can see this being resolved, Joe, is if Stephon Castle becomes a star.
Look at
Joanne. I think that could put it all together.
Joanne's asking a question here in the chat. She's saying, "Is CP doing a job?"
Offensively, yes. Defensively, he's a
liability.
Liability. I mean, defensively, he can't guard anybody. He's a 39-year-old man, 40-year-old man, almost trying to guard John Morant, trying to guard Gilgeous Alexander. He can't do it, man. So offensively, he's playing pretty well offensively. Defensively, he's atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, he's able to go ahead and effectively run the offense out there, and he's great at, the assist and all that he's bringing and the knowledge that he's bringing to the team. And I think they have him out there at times too for coaching, because he's out there and he's getting into these guys and he's talking with them, and that's what you need. You need somebody to do that.
Yeah, he's the floor general when it comes out there, and people have been reaching out to me saying, like this. I don't know if I'm reading this one correctly, Drew, but it's not just you. People are reaching out to him, saying, "Well, how is it that Sohan affected the shooting percentage of Wemby?" It's not that. It's about the flow of the offense. It's the flow of the offense. It's where you are on the court. It's who you have in the offense line differently, that sets up different looks and different patterns and different plays. It's not because Sohan's out there that all of a sudden his shot, Wemby's shot, is better. Yeah. It's just the flow's different. When Sohan's a little bit of a black hole when it comes to the ball offensively. He's like whack-a-mole, dude. He's like, I'm going to get my ball. I'm going to shoot from 5 feet. If I don't get it, I'm going to put it back up. 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 Dude, it's Wemby's team, man. There's no way in the world that Sohan should have ever had more field goal attempts than Wemby in any game in Spurs of the Spurs season this year. Never. And it happened consistently every single game that they played this season, the 6 games they played together. Wemby needs to be the focal point of the offense, whether it be inside or outside. And guess what? When Sohan's not there, who's getting the looks? Wemby's getting the looks. The way that it should be. I'm not here saying that I'm hating on Sohan. It's just they don't fit together. Defensively, the Spurs do take a step back. But notice, Joe, who they put in. I thought that when Sohan got hurt, they would put another big in there. They put Zach Collins or Mamu or somebody in there big. What did they do? No. They said, you know what? We're going to go small ball. We're going to go with a 6'6" rookie, 19-year-old named Stephon Castle. Joe, Mitch Johnson is showing that he has a better understanding of this player personnel. I'm not going to say that he's going to have a great winning percentage, because he's not. But he has a better understanding of this rebuild than the past coaching staff.
Yeah, I think putting the foreseeable future of the Spurs in the hands of one Mitch Johnson might be the move. Spurs fans had been wanting to ask, who's going to be the coach after Pop? And I think this is what we're seeing, the changing of the guard right before your eyes. It might be the Spurs roll with Mitch Johnson for the foreseeable future.
It's already happened.
Hopefully they can just go ahead and garner, more wins and get better and get to the promised land here and, return to the playoffs. But breaking news here that we did see, and a lot of the fans here that are watching have told us the same thing. It's official now. ESPN and TNT Sports officially announced Inside the NBA deal, which will start in the season of 2025-2026. And it says here, the studio team of Ernie Johnson, Kenny, Charles, and Shaq will be part of opening week, Christmas Day, and ABC games after January 1st. Playoffs, including the NBA Finals.
Matt Larimer reaching out to us saying it's the same coaching staff, Mike. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's the same people, but it's not the same. It's the same people, but it's not the same. We see Mitch Johnson going out there having different lineups. We see Mitch Johnson patrolling the line, going up and down the court on his side of the court anyway, the coaching lane differently. He's doing things differently than Pop.
Look at Mario.
He's not running Pop's play.
He says, all the love for Mitch now. Hope it's there when Spurs go on a 10-game losing streak.
Mitch has not. You got to give Mitch time to cook. You do, right? Pop and the front office are in charge of this team, right? As far as player development, when it comes to matters of who is on the court, who they have on the roster, the assistant coach wasn't going to do that. And there's so many people who tell me that Pop has no say in who the Spurs draft or who the Spurs get in free agency. And do you know how stupid that sounds, Joe? Yeah. What was Pop's job at one point in his career before he took over the head coaching position? What was his position again? He was assistant coach, and then he became the GM, which means he was in charge of the draft, right? So you're telling me that he relinquished all that? He just doesn't. I have no say. No. This team was constructed the way that he wanted it, and now we have a new regime in. And I know that call has not been made, that it's still an interim title. It's going to be a permanent title. Pop's not coming back.
No.
Personal opinion. You shouldn't. Focus on your health.
Make it official either this season or at the sometime in the off season. Don't think they really want to say anything right now out of respect for Coach Pop, but yeah, something's coming.
I'm not going to get into Pop and the Matt Larimer says, just stop your anti-Pop agenda. If you want to say Mitch is doing good, that's one thing, but you can't take a shot at Pop. You're a sad man with a microphone. No, I'm pointing out the fact that a comparison and contrast. That one coach is better for a rebuild than the other. I'm not going after anybody personally. I'm talking about what they did on the court, right? I don't go after personalities. That's stupid. I go after what they did on the court. And you can tell with the lineups being out there that the Spurs play a little bit better, a little bit more cohesively with Mitch Johnson making the calls. Joe, who they could have had Brett Brown out there. Brett Brown was the coach for the 76ers for many, many years. Instead, they went with a young guy. There's a reason for that.
Look at what we have here, JHNSB, which we were saying is your burner. He says Pop lovers want to see Mitch fail so badly. It's weird.
I know. Hey, Joe, did you hear? Who's going to replace Pop? Who's going to replace Pop? Dude, coaches get replaced all the time.
Look at Joanne says Pop is Jerry Jones.
No, I wouldn't go that far. Jerry Jones is awful. I wouldn't go that far. But
yeah, we're going to start having to bring this to an end because I got some things I got to get ready here to do for work, man. It's going to be a busy, busy day.
Very nice. Well, everyone have a fantastic day. Again, Cowboys take on the Houston Texans tonight. Joe and I, surprisingly, both have the Cowboys winning tonight's game because why? Cowboys can't lose every game at home, and the Houston Texans secretly suck. Cowboys will win tonight.
There you heard it here, man. Cowboys, we have them winning. So if we're wrong, I mean, everybody's going to come in and see, I told you so. I'm just saying, I'm just going with what I think is going to happen. I think Mike is too. We're just saying the Cowboys, we're giving them a chance to win tonight.
Joe, I win either way. You know why? Because if I'm right, God, you and I get to do that victory lap, right? And if I'm wrong, fuck the Cowboys. I'm not even a fan anyway.
Well, I'm a fan of the Cowboys, and I also have the Texans as my Sancha team. So no matter who wins tonight, I still win.
Very nice. All right, fellas. Everyone have a fantastic day out there. Screw Jake Paul. Screw Logan Paul. Mike Tyson, go cash that check. Be happy. Everyone have a fantastic day. Joe, have an amazing day at work. Yeah, I'm going to go back and take a nap.
There you go, man. We'll see you all tomorrow. We're out. Peace.
Late.